Hello, my name is Anna, and this is the Reading Raven. I don't know, name still to come. We haven't decided on that yet, and I don't even know how you really do that. I'm just gonna have to like Google, YouTube, BookTube channels, Instagram. That's not important, but we'll get to it. We'll get a name eventually. But I'm Anna. Thank you for joining us. This is my second video that I've done. My first one was an intro, and I talked for 20 minutes, and I was not expecting that, so that is fun. I don't know, we haven't edited the video yet. I haven't edited the video, I haven't even rewatched it. Who knows if I ever will, but we're trying, and that's here, and that's here, and that's great, and we're just trying to be easy breezy with this. That's the motto of this channel, and so for this video, again, my first one, I want to start out with talking about my first quarter reads. So I have not calculated how many that is, but I'm going to go from January of this year until the end of March to see what all or to talk about fairly quickly what books I've read so far this year, and their quick rating and maybe some quick thoughts. I read some shorter books earlier this year, which really helped boost my numbers because I certainly don't always have like 7 books in 1 month. But it was right before my last semester of grad school started, so I was very excited, but I was very interested in trying to read as much as I could before I knew I would not have as much time to do so. Taking public transit and having a long transit ride and listening to audiobooks during that time also helped get that number in January up, and that is how I got, especially for some of those shorter books. And by shorter, I mean they were still 4 hours, so or 4 hours. Were they 4 hours? Okay, well that's something I can look into later. That's neither here nor there. So let's start with January. So I have Storygraph up on my laptop, but my laptop is a little old and a little loud when it's plugged in and on, and hopefully you can't hear it right now, but it's there. So the first book I finished this year was Wuthering Heights. So I read that through Serial Reader, and I had started my reread of that in December. I'd been reading it for a while and I got a little behind, but I finally finished it in January. I read it in high school and didn't love it, and so after watching some people talk about their rereads or about the new movie and all the anticipation and hype even about the new movie, I was interested in a reread with the view of it not actually being a romance in particular, and I do think that helped my enjoyment of it, though I still rated it a 3. I liked it overall, so like 3's not bad in my world. Just means I didn't necessarily love it. It's not one of my favorites or anything like that, but I liked it. I finished it. I didn't hate it, anything like that. I did hate all of the characters. Just not a redeeming quality about any of them, except for maybe young Kathy and the guy whose name I've now forgotten. And neither of them are even in the movie. Spoiler alert, I guess. I did see the movie with my cousin, and I thought it was interesting, and I don't really have strong feelings about it. So, I know this is like a few months later, and I don't really care about that. She loved it. We both ended up crying. But yeah, it wasn't, it was an interesting, pretty enough movie. So then after that, I read books 3, 4, and 5 of the Wayward Children series. So that is Beneath the Sugar Sky, In an Absent Dream, and Come Tumbling Down. So I guess I read the first 2 earlier, or at the end of last year, which I don't fully remember that was the case, but I suppose it was. And it looks like I gave Beneath the Sugar Sky, which is book number 3, a 2.75, and that's the one where they go, like Sumi's daughter comes and they have to go on an adventure to whatever her world was called. I did not love that one, but it was okay. The next one was In an Absent Dream, which was, I believe, Lundy's book. One of my cats is also singing in the bathroom right now. It's Ryan. He's the one who does that. So if you hear any little kitty noise, it's him. So I rated that one a 4.5. I actually really enjoyed that one. I thought that one was really interesting. I think I tend to enjoy the ones about specific characters or just one character more than the kind of group up stories. I think because I like hearing about the worlds, and I don't necessarily love when they do go on quests, since the school, it's just like one of the school rules, and then there never seems to be any repercussions of that. Not that it's really a big deal, but I don't know, that just doesn't interest me as much. And then the next one was Come Tumbling Down, which I rated a 3.25, which was another one with Jack and Jill. It's also one where I listened to the audio book for that one, and the author narrates it, and for whatever reason, I just don't love their narration, and that's okay. So I've started to just read the ones that they narrate, and I'll listen to the other ones. I'm not really sure why. I think part of it is I don't like the back and forth with different narrators for the same characters within the same series, and there has been quite a bit of that. So I think that, especially since I'm basically I was basically binging them, since they were pretty quick reads, it was kind of disorienting in that way. But that was those 3 books. And then also on Serial Reader, I read The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes #1, according to Storygraph, A Scandal in Bohemia, which is about the lady whose name I cannot remember right now, but she is in the Sherlock show. And her character is very different than in this story. But this was the 3-part serial on Serial Reader, so it was a pretty quick read, but I do find the Sherlock Holmes stories and books interesting. I haven't read that many of them. I was reading a collected works a while ago, and I got really stressed out during, I think someone trying to escape something in Utah, and being really interested in her story, but knowing it was a Sherlock Holmes, so I'm sure that something awful was about to happen. And I just wasn't at the point where I could read something that stressful before bed, I guess. But I rated this a 3.75. It was just a short story, so it was very quick. It's pretty short. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I think it probably could have been developed a little further. And I think that Sherlock and, oh my gosh, I'm just forgetting everything, Watson, they, whatever iteration it is, they always have a very interesting dynamic, and that is true in the original, with the original characters as well. After that, I'm getting towards the end of January. I finished this on January 22nd. I read Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, and I rated that one 5 stars. And I did really enjoy it. It is maybe not the most fun read, but I enjoyed this perspective. I liked reading about this fictional version of a notorious serial killer, but getting the women's side of it, I thought there were parts that were very devastating, and I liked how it talked about how he was just a man. He wasn't this, prolific serial killer, like a phrase thrown around, but he was just a man, and he was a human. He was an imperfect, he wasn't godlike or anything like that. He wasn't a superhuman who did these things, and even though the media maybe sensationalized that, and continues to do so, I suppose. I wasn't alive during that time. I wasn't born yet. And again, this is a fictionalized version of that story. which I believe was Bundy. They did mention the, Zac Efron playing him in a Netflix movie, which I thought was interesting because, Zac Efron is a good-looking guy, and it was just interesting. I know. But I enjoyed that overall. It was something I could not read before bed because it really stressed me out and made me sad. And it was just, I guess, nice to see those perspectives, even though they were heartbreaking and awful. And I guess helped sensationalize it all a little less. So that was For Young Women, 5 stars. And then my final book for January was The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. This one I also rated 5 stars. I had read this at some point, probably in high school. And one morning I decided, while I was still in bed before I got up for work, to just read The Raven. There's a specific reason, and I don't remember what it was. Maybe I was looking for quotes or just thinking about it. And, it's short. It's a poem. I feel weird about I guess this says it was 64 pages, but, excuse me. This says it was 64 pages, but it was very short. It didn't take me very long to read it, but I just really enjoy it. I do like ravens and crows. I think they're really cool. And I liked the story in particular. So, so that was 7 books for January. And let's see. Let's go to February next. Right now for February, we had 6 books. This one was a little bit more mixed in audio, ebook, PDF. I'm not reading the PDFs of books. I don't think I had any physical books this month. The first book that I finished in February was Who Cooked Adam Smith's Dinner? A Story of Women and Economics by Catherine Marsal. I listened to the audiobook version of this, which I got from the library. I rated it a 4.0. I remember listening to it while waiting for trains and stuff like that. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't know a lot about economics, particularly in relation to women, I guess, in general. But, I had an econ course in high school years and years and years ago. I don't remember very much from that besides like 10 Stoffel. I didn't take any econ in college or anything like that. So it's not, really something I look into or read about very much on my own. I do think it's interesting. So I thought that this was, even though it's from 2012, I thought this was a very interesting kind of look at the unpaid labor of women's work and all of that, or things considered women's work, and how that has affected the economy over the ages. Reviews were a little bit more mixed on Goodreads, if I recall correctly, but I think those people had more knowledge about econ, or maybe were expecting more about economics, which again, I have just whatever remnants from my high school course of more years than I care to admit right now. So I thought it was interesting, and it did make me want to look more into the subject in general, and kind of widen my horizons in that way. And my first thought is always, I should take a class on that, but I don't know if I should. I don't know if I want to do that because I just finished my master's degree, so we'll see. Next, I read Absolution, which is the 4th Southern Reach book by Jeff Vandermeer. I rated that a 3.75. I enjoyed it overall. I really enjoyed the Southern Reach trilogy. When I read that last year, I consumed them all very quickly because I was very interested. My favorite one of those was the 3rd one, which was Acceptance, I believe, because I really love Saul. He was my favorite character. And I liked his story, and I won't say much more than that. But I thought this was interesting. I did like it overall. Definitely didn't like it as much as that one. It was more like the second book, Authority, than either of the other ones. And the last section is interesting. Unpleasant to read, I guess. It was, I mean, I didn't have the audiobook version. I didn't have to suffer through that because I've seen some reviews about that. But it was a lot. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, I got it. I understood. But I was like, oh, wow, what an ending to this book. And then I also got jump scared by an image between the two sections because I was reading at night. And I was in the room by myself, and it was dark, and then I just flipped the page, and there's this scary color image, and I was so that was because I'd completely forgotten that there had been an earlier image, because it had been a little bit since I had started the book. But I did enjoy it. 3.75's quite good, I would say. And I'm excited to read more Jeff Vandermeer. My husband was kind of surprised when I told him I was reading reading Annihilation last spring because of how unsettled I was by the movie. And they are very different and enjoyable in their own ways. Someone described it as like the director's interpretation of how they read the book. And though I haven't rewatched it since I've read the book, I could definitely see that. And they definitely have their own horrors, even though there's still a lot in place. But I really enjoyed the whole series, and I enjoyed this edition as well. So after that, we had Across the Greengrass Fields, which is Wayward Children number 6. This is the horse girl book. This one I rated a 3.5, and I did listen to this one. I enjoyed it overall. I could not tell you what happens at the end whatsoever. Like, not even a little bit. It's just a complete blank. So, does that mean I wasn't really paying attention? Possibly, because I was listening to it. So who knows? But yeah, that was, again, I prefer the ones where it's about a single character over the sort of team ups. And I do think some of that is because I just really hate the deep Southern accents that most of the narrators have for whatever his name is, as someone from the South who doesn't have that kind of accent but still gets kind of annoyed by those portrayals. I have plenty of family members who do have closer to that accent and grew up with, we don't need to go on a rant about that, but it is annoying. After that, I don't know how, but somehow I received an ARC or an ARC, however you say it. I don't remember how I even say it, but I got an ARC of Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher, which was very exciting. I've read a lot of T. Kingfisher over the last couple of years, and I've really enjoyed most of them, if not just loved. I've loved definitely several of them, but some I've liked more than others. And I enjoyed this one as well. I rated it a 4.0, and I was horrified. Some of the things that I read about, I've been trying to forget ever since I read it in February. So that was February 17th. So we're like 3 months out now. And the information is still there, but it's like a little bit more faded. And I'd like to keep it that way because I am somewhat squeamish, but I'm extremely squeamish when it comes to bugs and when it comes to bugs and body horror. So kind of nightmare fuel, but otherwise I did like the book. I did enjoy it. I liked the characters. I thought there was an interesting twist on something we've seen a lot without getting too much into the spoiler territory for that. And it was interesting to read that T. Kingfisher had been an illustrator or painter or some sort previously, because I did actually really like all the descriptions of the painting and what colors she was using for her illustrations. And I love the cat, so that was fun. Let's see, after that, I read my first book for my cousin's book club, which was The True Story of Raja the Gullible and His Mother by, I'm absolutely not going to pronounce this correctly, and I apologize, but Rabi Almadine, and I rated that a 3.75, so I really enjoyed that as well. We all liked it at the book club. We were all devastated by several parts of it, and we all found it really interesting. And so I finished it the Friday night before the book club the next day, and I just sat on my couch by myself sobbing in a few different parts, but particularly the end. I thought his mom was such an interesting character. I loved his cats. We did a craft for book club. My cousin made themed foods, which was really fun, but our craft was making little paper towel roll cats. So I made one of my cats Astro, and that was very fun. But that was after his cat, Mr. Cat. And yeah, it was really interesting. It taught me things about that time period there that I had not known about, well, not within a lot of detail. And so I did learn a lot through that as well. And I thought it was funny and touching, and again, really devastating. What did I write? I said it was emotional, funny, and reflective. So sure, we'll go with that. Next I listened to the audiobook of Stranger Things #1, Suspicious Minds by Gwenda Bond. And I rated that a 3.5. So this one is interesting because at this point in time, so when I finished it towards the end of February, it had been about 2 months since the Stranger Things finale had come out. And so that was still very fresh, and I have a lot of feelings about it, a lot of thoughts, and a lot of frustrations. And reading this made me feel those, not renewed, because again, it was very soon after, but it kind of made me feel them all over again, or feel them more strongly, because it felt like there was just such a huge disconnect between what happened in this book, which was released in 2019, versus what we got in 2025. And I find that disappointing, to say the least. I don't know. It's been a couple months since I listened to this. And I remember, I didn't think this was a perfect book. I thought the ending was kind of rushed. I wish they had gone into more details about Terry going into the lab for the children and all of that, which they didn't do. And it ended kind of abruptly, even though we kind of, had glimpses of what happened, and we knew from season 2, but even though I'm pretty sure this was considered canon at the time, it just does not track at all with season 5. And I do subscribe to the divorce gate theory, and I'm laughing like it's not, a thing, but this video is turning into a lot more of a feminist rant than I was really expecting it to. But anyways, I just think there's some interesting points about divorce gate in this case, and we all know about wow, I'm totally blanking. The Fitzgeralds. There we go. That's something. But yeah, I don't know if I would suggest this. Now, if you want to kind of go back to pre-2020, pre-Vecna Stranger Things, then this is a good book for that. Listening to it was fine. Again, I liked it overall. I do like the Stranger Things stories a lot. I like the world. I like all of that. And I don't even fully hate the 5th season, but it was too fresh, maybe. So, you know, I don't know if I'll continue reading the other books. That's yet to be seen. We'll figure that out later. All right, I've been talking a long time for this, but now we're going on to our last month for Q1, which is March. I only read 5 books that month. So my first one was No One Leaves the Manor by Kelly McWilliams, which I did not leave a number rating for, but I feel like it was probably going to be like a 2. I'll change that later. That was also an ARC that I received from NetGalley, and it's a young adult horror, though I think I read the synopsis as more fantastical, but it definitely came as more of a young adult horror book, because there were a lot of horrific things. There were some gross things, there were some squeamish things, there were just scary things. I didn't find it particularly scary, but I would have to look at what I wrote for my NetGalley review to really remember. I don't think I was the audience for it at this point, as it is for young adults, or it is considered young adult, and I have been drifting away from that recently, which is fine. So yeah, but things I did like, and I thought it had some interesting things. I thought it had some interesting aspects, but overall I thought it was kind of rushed, and I felt like one of the antagonists kind of got cleared a little too quickly. So there's that. Next I read Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson, and I rated that a 3.5. So I've read several of Maureen Johnson's books. I really enjoyed the Truly Devious books when I read those a few years ago. Talking about YA, speaking of. I have read all of the follow-up Truly Devious books, and even though they're not a part of that original trilogy, I did enjoy those for the most part. I liked the camp one a lot more than I liked the UK one, because I thought everyone, like all of that like 16 group of friends, was completely insufferable, and I hated reading about them. So there was that. And this book was, you know, it was not quite as quirky as Truly Devious, but it still had very similar aspects, and definitely a decent dose of quirkiness, and I did enjoy it overall. Again, 3.5, pretty good. I don't remember who did what. No, oh, I kind of do. Okay, maybe. No, well, you know what? It was interesting. I love a little neatly tied mystery. I'm gonna blame that because of on Scooby-Doo and Nancy Drew. I love when you get it all neatly tied together and you get all the answers and your detective figures it out. I love the Knives Out Benoit Blanc movies. I don't know why they keep calling them Knives Out. I think they need to switch to Benoit Blanc, or even just Knives Out Benoit Blanc. Let's add like 17 words to the title, because that sells movies, right? And that's good. I think so. Huge fan of those. And so these Maureen Johnson, even tangentially Truly Devious ones, I'll still read, because I do like those kind of books quite a lot. I should probably read more Agatha Christie, honestly. I've read some, but she's got a lot. So anyways, all right, next I had an arc of Kin by Tayari Jones. Probably mispronounced that as well. I rated that one a 4.25, and I enjoyed that one overall. I liked the two differing stories of the two women, and even though they were so similar and they were, sisters and all of that, and how different their lives were, but I thought it was really devastating. I think I finished it on a Saturday morning, like first thing. That was what I did. Or maybe before work one morning I finished it. And it was just, it ended in a very sad way that was not how I wanted to start my morning personally. But I did enjoy it. It wasn't always an easy read by any means. I really loved that one of the character stories took place in Atlanta, since I'm from that area, so that was really cool to read about. And yeah, that was really good. So thanks to NetGalley for that one. I don't know if they were just giving it to everyone, but it was nice to read. After that, I finally read I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which I'd had on my list for a while, but was always never quite sure if it was time to read it or not, or if I was up for it. I ended up rating it a 3.75. I read that so quickly. I really just couldn't put it down. It really scared me. I was, in the beginning, again, reading by myself in a dark room at night, in bed, before I went to sleep, was probably not the best idea. And the phone call stuff really freaked me out. I wasn't entirely sure how I felt about the ending. I kind of want to go back and reread it and see if there's extra things that I missed out on, though I had picked up on a lot of that, but I thought it was horrifying, and I enjoyed reading it, which feels, you saying enjoy, or maybe I liked it. I liked the book. It's dark. I don't know if it's a pleasant, enjoyable experience, but I do not regret my time spent reading it, which, it's sometimes all there is to say. But that's not the case. I did actually enjoy this, and I want to see the movie. I love that it has Jesse Plemons in it, which I know him mostly from Breaking Bad, but I watched a little Friday Night Lights back in the day, and there aren't a lot of times where I'm like, yes, that is the perfect casting, mostly because I just don't think about who I think would be a good fit for a role. But Jesse Plemons, yeah. That's it. That is it. And I believe the girlfriend is the same actress as the bride, which is fun. Just saw that earlier this year. And I really enjoyed that. That was a weird ass movie. I loved it. And then, okay, so my last read for March was The Gift of Fear, Survival Signals That Protect Us from Violence, abridged, by Gavin DeBecker. I guess this abridged version, or the original recording, was from 1997, so, things have changed somewhat. I see that I wrote 3.75 on here, and that feels wildly high. Like, I think I probably did that too quickly. I was like, oh yeah, everyone should listen to this. And then just kind of thinking about some things, I think my rating, I've started to wait a little bit before I rate books, because I have to mull it over a little bit, because my initial instinct isn't always how I actually feel about it. I think that's the case here. I think I would actually rate this a 2 for the abridged version. The sound quality is pretty bad on the version I listened to, which is just from the library, but it sounds like it was a cassette recording that someone abridged, and then that's just what they're offering. I don't know if that's true. That's just what it sounded like. The quality wasn't great. I didn't realize it was abridged until I was finished with it, and people were talking about other things in reviews, and I was like, when did that happen? And that's because it didn't happen in my book. I think overall he made some interesting points, and it was good to have those things brought to my attention, but I don't remember a lot of what I had issues with overall. I don't know what my like Goodreads review or anything would say, but my main memory is that I think he said something along the lines of, the first time a woman is hit, she's a victim. The second time, she's a volunteer, which is wrong. Just gonna say that. We know now, which maybe they didn't know then. I don't know. I was very young in 1997, but we know now that they can't, domestic abuse violent victims can't just leave. That's the most, when they do leave, that's the most dangerous time. There's a lot in play. Like that's the whole, that's just the whole point of it. There can be financial reasons, you know, other, you know, okay. I don't have anything prepared to say about this, and I am not, like, I would want to like really educate myself and like get the facts before I like really went into a rant about this. But the basics are, this man said that because his mom, he grew up in an abusive household, and you know, it's not that easy. You can't just like, oh, she got hit once and she went back, okay, well, she's a volunteer. No, that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. You can't, you're not volunteer. It's just, I'm not being very eloquent about this because I'm still upset. I read this like 2 months ago. But we don't, that's not how it is. So this book is outdated, and I listened to the abridged version. I don't want to end this video on this note. I feel like you can listen to it and maybe get some good pointers, but just remember that there's a lot more to it than just getting to leave if you're in that situation. Okay, I gotta stop ranting. Now, let's talk about what I'm reading now real quick, just to wrap up the video. Let's see. I just went on my first overseas trip to London, which is somewhere I've wanted to go for a really long time. So that was really magical, and I finished a couple of books while I was there. I didn't actually go to any bookstores, so I planned on it, but we just ran out of time. I finished Such Sharp Chief, wow, by Rachel Harrison. I finished the second Murderbot book, which I don't remember what it was called. I read a lot of the fourth Wheel of Time book, which I think is The Shadow Rising, which is I'm really enjoying it, but it is a long book. And I started Smother Moss. I started Smother Moss on the plane over, which I found very interesting as well. I love the Appalachian setting. And it's weird, it's horrifying. There's some horrifying aspects. There's some very nightmarish, dreamlike aspects to it that makes you kind of question what's real. Yeah, so Smother Moss and The Shadow Rising are the two books that I'm working on currently after reading the second Murderbot in the Newark airport while we were delayed. I don't want to talk about that though. That wasn't very fun. London was magical though, in all the ways. Let's see. I don't know how to end these videos. Okay, so if you stayed here this whole time, thank you so much. If you've read any of the books I mentioned, please let me know your thoughts, if you're currently reading them, whatnot. So I think I was at 7, 6, 5, so 18 books for the first quarter, which is wild. I have had a few years where I haven't gotten that in an entire year, thanks to reading slumps and other things. But let me know what you were reading. Let me know how many books you read this quarter, if there were any books that were a waste of your time, And if, there's any sort of recommendations you have for me, something that I should check out, or any suggestions, and maybe we'll meet the cats next time. Yeah, and maybe we'll have a channel name by then. That would be great too. If we can ever become a London-based, I don't want to say we, if I ever become a London-based YouTube channel, that's how we'll know we'll make it. We've made it. Very tired. I'm still a little jet lagged probably. But I think coming back was a little easier than going that way. Honestly, I'm surprised I had enough energy to do any of this video at all, because I was just sitting there anxiously like, oh, I don't want to do this. But I do want to do this, but I don't want to do this. And so here we are. Now I'm just rambling to the camera. And I don't know if any of this is watchable at all. So, yeah, but please, please like, subscribe, get notifications, follow me on Instagram and whatnot whenever I have those. Comment, that's a thing. Tell me your favorite book of all time. That's a fun one. If you have one, do you have a favorite author? Is there a book series you've been kind of binging recently? Yeah, sounds good. All right. Thanks, y'all.